Hey there, my name is Amy Nilsson with Big Abilities and Collaborative Corner for Exceptional Children. I'm excited to share with you today a conversation I had a couple of months ago with Mitja Mavsar. Mitja is from Slovenia. He is a husband, father of four, and co-founder of an amazing speech app called Speech Blubs. I used Speech Blubs several years ago with my own son, and so when I rediscovered it and saw all the exciting new features, I really wanted to have a chance to have a conversation with Mitja and find out what's been going on behind the scenes in Speech Blubs and what we can expect in its future. So let's get started. Hi, Mitja. Thank you so much for joining me today. Before we get started, can you give us a little background on yourself, including the backstory of Speech Blubs?
Oh, okay. So my backstory is I'm I'm from Slovenia. Um, I studied social sciences and want to be in creative scene, so advertising and so on. But I was a geek, so not a very good developer, not a very good designer. So at that point of time, there was a very popular thing to be a user experience designer. So I spent a decade being that. And in the meantime, I'm now 39, I believe. I got kids, first one, then second, then third. Now I have four kids, which is very unusual for this part of the world. So it was kind of logical for me, and like it connects with me working with kids in apps. Um, the motivation partly was because I was working a lot with startups. Having a startup was part of motivation. Part of motivation was that I had speech impediment as a child and also as a adolescent. But the biggest notch was basically I met when I was, I think, 32 or 33. I met a guy who was, I think, 19 at the time. Now he's 26 and he's our CEO. So the idea was to do something in speech therapy. None of us had experience with speech therapy. We both had speech impediments as children and understand that intimately, what this means actually. But yeah, we researched the market. It's not the best probably market in the world to be in terms of there are many better markets if you look at it from at first sight. It seems like it's a hard business to be in. But yeah, it started as an idea. Let's build an app for fun as a hobby project. And we didn't have any animators. All of them were working for the local gaming company, which was, I think, still has one of the top two mobile games in the world. So we didn't have any animators, but we got the idea. Maybe even better than animations would be having real kids in the app. So we didn't come to a conclusion. Okay, there's this video modeling science behind treating kids who have speech problems, but basically we hit the studio, and this was the one of the key moments in this journey. And in that studio, we recorded with speech therapists a couple of kids working on, I think it's called oral motor exercises, something that's very hated among the SLPs of this age. Um, However, we had this exercise called fish. So it was a child saying nothing but opening their mouth. We checked that video on the screen, and there was like 5, 7 people in the room. And then I remember Yerney, that's my co-founder, he nudged me and he said, hey, everyone in the room is doing what the child on the video is doing.
Wow.
There's something on that. We were thinking. Then we did our research, and then we saw that okay, there's this thing called video modeling used in with kids on the autism spectrum and so on. But this was basically the start. Then the story continued, and yeah, we now have Speech Blubs, which uses basically kids in the app, and tries to engage children on the other side of the screen to do the same, basically to imitate children. And I think nowadays that most of the people wear masks, so kids cannot see other people faces, and that most kids are locked down most of the time. This is a very important thing, you know, that kids can see other kids, and that they enjoy active screen time, smart screen time, not just like watching cartoons all day, because we all know that this basically doesn't do any good. It actually harms. Video games are harming kids' speech and language and many other cognitive abilities. And today we are a company of 35 and yeah, working our asses off.
Well, I have so many comments and questions. First off, I have 4 children as well, and it's not that common in the States either, but it warms my heart because my youngest son, that's 5, is on the autism spectrum, and he has some speech issues. So the fact that you took that personal experience that you lived through to create an app that would help children like my own son, I just want to thank you for that, because that means a lot to me as a parent. And I actually have used Speech Blubs with him long before I, interacted with you when he was first diagnosed with Apraxia, which was 2017, I believe.
Wow.
Your app must have been pretty new back then, because I've noticed that it's changed a lot since then. But I used it, so I'm familiar with the program. But can you explained a little bit, but that you, instead of using animation, you use real children. But can you explain a little bit more about how the program works?
Okay, so early on we realized that our app is not a generic or like any other speech therapy app. We noticed that our users are mostly 2 or 3 year olds. So these are usually kids with speech delay. And we realized that with 2 and 3 year olds, there is an important person in their life, and that's a parent. So when you open our app, the parent first sees a bunch of questions. So we first address the parents' need to get answers. And in all these, our research from very early on showed that anywhere in the world, parents have an important issue, and that is they don't have access to speech therapists. They either have to wait. I think in Ireland, Canada, UK, there are records of areas where kids wait like for 2 years to get assessed, which is like, half of their life if the child is like 2 or 3. So the first thing we do is we ask a parent, what's your child's name, what's their age, and then according to that age, we give them milestones for that specific age. And the parent can get report and tips and tricks. And then you are, as a parent, you can enter our free trial. And then in the free trial, you can basically play with our mechanics or content, so to say. We have different mechanics, so you can, for very basic things, when the child is like totally nonverbal, there are activities like imitating an animal. For example, a child user would see a child teacher imitating a lion, for example. And after that, the child needs to imitate that lion. You imitate, and we have speech recognition. So we show the child and the parent that the child is making a sound. In case of words, we even have speech. We recognize if the word has been spoken correctly, and then so this is the basic. So we have a lot of different activities, and most of those activities are based on a child saying something, doing something, and the child user needs to repeat. Then we try to engage the child to do this again, and we use game-like mechanic, things kids like. So what we do in the case of that lion, a child would see himself with lion hair on his head. So it's like face filters. Usually kids love them on Instagram and similar apps. And then you also have videos. So we have videos with voiceover, short, funny videos about lions, and that's basically it. We have animal sounds. We have I think 300 different words. We have different mechanics for guessing stuff. So for example, a child that is totally nonverbal, usually his or their comprehension is good enough so they can guess stuff. So for example, they can hear a word and then show on a picture what the child said. They can also answer simple riddles. So we have a child saying a riddle, and then you have to tap the correct answer in picture. So we always try to, we have in mind that we also do a lot of usability testing with kids. And when you see a 2-year-old handling a device, it's horrible. They are not able to hold it properly, let alone tap it.
Right.
We are one of the rare apps that actually is tailored to such a young audience, which is incredibly hard. Usually apps are tailored for 4 to 5-year-olds.
Right.
And it's really hard. So I hope this explains enough. We have sentences as well. We have kids singing songs, all that. Try to have real kids interaction through the app.
Well, as I mentioned, when I first used your app with my son, it was several years ago. And so recently I downloaded again, and I noticed some of those new features that you're talking about, like the filters. And I think that he did one just recently where it was a monkey, and it was just like you said, then you see him looking like a monkey, and kids love that. I know my son loves to be on Snapchat with his older sister, and it just engages them so much more. So I see that your program has evolved, your app, since you first developed it. So what other upcoming features can we look forward to, if you can tell us kind of what's down the road? What do you see, in the future of Speech Blubs?
Currently, we are working a lot on personalization. So it's kids are different. Everyone has different needs. Some like dinosaurs, some like dinosaurs, some like monkeys. So we try to personalize in that way. But we also try to personalize in a way that the child will be able to recognize themselves as a part of the app. So this is basically, you will take a picture of your child's face, and then he will be a protagonist in stories and videos. And recently we also launched Reading Blubs app, which is available under the same subscription. So it's kind of for free if you have Speech Blubs. And this app basically is for developing early literacy skills. Early literacy skills means parents should be reading to their children, especially if they are speech delayed.
Yes.
So we again use the same trick. So we have kids reading and kids reading stories, and stories are engaging. So a child taps through stories like they would be interacting with a flap book, for example. That kind of
Okay.
that kind of things.
Yeah, so you spoke about this a little bit in the beginning when you were explaining about how the app works, but I want to specifically talk a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper into that assessment tool, because I believe that's new as well from when I used the app years ago. So I went through the app recently. I did the whole assessment tool and tried it out on using my son as a 5-year-old. And it was really good. I was very impressed with that, because one of my platforms is early intervention and monitoring developmental milestones. And that is exactly what that assessment tool does. I think it's an excellent service to families. Can you explain a little bit more about that assessment tool, how it works, how it came about? And I'm also very concerned about what type of feedback you've gotten from users about that assessment tool, because I think it is such a unique feature on your app.
Well, how it works, basically, when a parent is concerned about their child's speech, language, or other abilities, parent would usually compare their child with other children, and sometimes they go that far that they Google for milestones. So for every age, you have certain milestones. What we have in our app are questions about milestones regarding different topics. The first thing is hearing, because a lot of kids, either don't speak or speak in a way that they cannot be, nobody understands them, because they don't hear, either partially or usually it's like a partial impairment of their hearing, caused by infections and so on, early childhood. So this is one part. Hearing is like, you need to hear if you want to speak, if you want to talk. The second thing is pragmatics. This is nonverbal communication. For example, if you would enter an app with a 1-year-old, you would get questions like, does your child look at you when you look at him? If it's like a 3-year-old, it would be, is he playing is he communicating with others? Is he bringing you toys and communicates about that? Then we have play. Play is a very important thing. So how does your child play? Again, different questions for different age groups. And then we have comprehension. So this is passive language. How many words does he understand? And other things in comprehension. Even when children are not saying any words, comprehension can be, far advanced. And then we have talking. So these are 5 areas: hearing, pragmatics, play, comprehension, and talking. We developed that with, I think we checked like 20 different research-based milestones, some not research-based. And then what we did is, and that's basically, I think the biggest thing, is that we try to put it in a language that is understood by a person who is not a speech therapist. Because sometimes those milestones are like complex things that, you cannot really tell, is my child able to do this or not? So yeah, we tried that. And then you get a report. Currently, the report is in text. I think in the future, we are planning on developing it further. So maybe in videos or things like that, more pictures, more videos, because parents don't read.
Well,
Nobody doesn't.
I love what you said about how you tried to take some of those complex assessment tools that are out there and make it into an easy format for parents to understand. Because I work with a lot of parents as well. That's one of the things that I do with the nonprofit that I work with, Collaborative Corner for Exceptional Children. And sometimes especially in the beginning, and you're working with the youngest of these kids, that the parents are just being hit with all these diagnoses and these issues, and they're overwhelmed, and they don't know the language, they don't know the terminology, they don't know the syntax surrounding these complex topics. And so the fact that you have created an assessment tool that does make it very simple, I thought it was excellent. And one of the topics that you mentioned is play. And that is a very important part of children's developmental milestones, especially as it relates to language. And I actually was lucky enough, I was fortunate to be able to write an article that was posted on your blog about imaginative play and how important that is for developing speech, which wanted me to ask you, which reminded me to ask you about your blog. There's some great information there. How do you use that blog to support your families, and how do you find the content, and what type of a process is that you go through in order to post something on that blog, which is excellent, by the way. I will be linking it in the show notes because there's some excellent content there.
Our blog, we had it from the beginning, but in the last year, we started actually building it as a professional blogger would. So we have a network of SLPs, which is based. If you are part of that expert network, this means that you give us feedback on everything we do, because at the beginning we were working with individual therapists, and everyone has their own opinion, especially if you go from SLPs to some behavioral therapists. There can be different theories about just about anything. So we have this, not sure how many of them are there, but they're helping us develop our product. And then we just ask them, would you write something for us? And in a year, I think we have like 300 blog posts.
Wow.
And how are we helping parents? Well, we are always in contact with parents, and we know what they're asking. We also have a lot of data about what our parents um, answering, what are the biggest problems children have. We have this screener, so we know, what's the biggest problem of a 2-year-old, for example. So this is one part, how we decide on what content goes next. And yeah, that's basically it. We are trying to include as many therapists as possible to write for our blog, and we try to deliver this blog online. I think recently, not sure if you have this version, but it should be there. We have parental section in our app as well. So if you open the app, you have blogs. You also have short video courses about basic things, meant for parents, not for kids, because parent is the key. Parent is the key therapist. Therapy is hard to get.
Well, I love that you say that, because parents are the expert on their children and they're the ones with them the most.
As well,
So
yeah.
the fact that you're promoting this product to parents and really helping them to be involved. I also saw on your site, and I thought this was brilliant, that you offer play testing. Can you explain what that is in case listeners are interested?
Yeah, sure. So play testing is a different word for user testing. So we have kids trying out our app, trying out our new prototypes for new features, new content, and so on. So what we do is we call this play testing, and a parent basically records their child using our app. We check these videos to see, how children react and build our product based on that. And we give parents different awards. Sometimes it's an Amazon gift card, $20, $30, depending on the complexity of the study and how much time. Usually, parent needs like 20 minutes to record their child and send us the video. Maybe fill up a form how their child reacted. So yeah, that's basically our playtesting, and we invite all the parents to apply for playtesting.
Yeah, I think it's great because you're actually getting field research with children using that app. Now, speaking of kids, and you said this earlier, and I love this, instead of using animations or graphics, which can be abstract, especially for young children, especially for children on the spectrum, sometimes illustrations, they don't understand that that's a person or whatever. But so your company chose to go the route of using actual children as the feature in the app, and they are simply adorable. So I was curious. So are the kids featured in the program? Are they employees' children? Do they audition? Because they do an excellent job.
At the beginning, they were my children and friends' children. But yeah, we are in Slovenia, and our market is the States. So we now have kids from the States. We have also from other countries. We have kids from the UK, because British parents told us that American is not an actual language. It's not as good as British. So we did a British version. We did French version. We did Portuguese version, Spanish version, all that. So we have 5 different language versions, and for that we are using kids who are basically professional actors. We hire them, and we check them if they are good speakers. So we have speech therapists checking them if they have any obvious problems with speech and so on.
Well, and I think it's great, especially because something you mentioned earlier, that right now, children in speech therapy, children in school, they're seeing everyone in a mask. And if you have a child that already has some speech challenges, that makes it even that much harder. So the fact that they can see real kids that are their peers, their same age, saying these words and seeing their face right now more than ever, that is such a timely necessity. So I think, even though in hindsight you didn't realize what was going to happen, nor did anyone, I truly believe that this is a program that if parents can use with their children right now that aren't seeing the facial expressions of other
Yeah.
peers or teachers, it's just so important. And that's something I didn't even think about until you mentioned that. So that's a really good point.
Yep. Exactly.
So before we go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Um, No, I think it's maybe one thing.
Okay.
There's a big discussion in the recent years. I think now that this this Corona thing and so on, many parents told us, okay, but this is an app, and screens are bad, because every teacher, everyone told them, stay away from screens. And now in Corona, I think every child gets hours of screen time every day, and there are certain recommendations made by American Association of Pediatrics, something like that, and they say, okay, your child should be, if it's like 3-year-old, he shouldn't be using screens more than 1 hour, and be there with your child. And play with their child, play along him while he's playing anything or watching any cartoon. And one thing they mention is that if the child is using things like Zoom or Skype, or basically facing other people, this doesn't count as screen time. This is like real screen. This is like a good thing. And I think our app basically comes really close by showing real kids and centering on the role of facial contact, because we all learn we learn to speak by observing. We learn everything by observing and mimicking others, and that's
Correct.
basically
The modeling of other people. And also to your point, and this kind of shocked me, I didn't realize that the wait list for speech was so long in some areas. We were lucky in the States, we have something called early intervention that you can get your child services pretty quickly. So a child doesn't have 2 years to wait to begin. The language acquisition phase is so early in their life. And the longer you wait to build those delayed skills, the greater that gap gets. So this is a tool that we can put in the hands of families immediately. So while they're waiting for speech, they also can begin to learn how to work with their child. So there's so many positives with it. And I believe that any type of screen, it's just a different medium for the transmission of education, or talking with someone, or conversation, especially now we can't do it face to face. So your app is so interactive, and it is that is using children. So I think it's fantastic. So if anyone listening wants to know more information, where shall we send them?
Speechblubs.com. Speechblubs.com is our website.
Okay.
They can start their free trial there. They can also write to us. I think it's hello@speechblubs.com. They can ask us anything. We are even thinking about, because we get a lot of questions from parents about their specific problem. Some parents are posting these things on Facebook and so on. Some parents are not really eager to share their children's problems online. So sometimes we get specific questions for speech therapists, and we try to answer those as well. So just to be helpful.
Well, I will link all that information in the show notes, and I encourage anyone listening that has a young child to check out Speech Blubs for their free trial. I know that you'll find a lot of value in it. I know that I certainly have. And Mitja, it was such an honor to speak with you today, and I really value and appreciate what you do, not only as a parent of a child with some speech and language issues, but also as an advocate for other children as well. So again, thank you, and I look forward to seeing what is down the road with Speech Blubs. I will be keeping in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Mitja for joining me, and thank you to you for watching or listening, depending on if you're watching this as a video or listening to it as a podcast episode. Have a great rest of your day.